Hey everyone, welcome back to Apollo Art Analysis. In today's episode, we're going to be studying a piece by the 3D artist known as Garrett Jayordan. In this episode, we're going to be looking at the symbolism of the skeleton. We're also going to look at the symbols of the magician hat, as well as the vast and open sea. We're going to talk a little bit about the vaporwave and the dreamcore aesthetic as well, so let's just jump right into it. So at first sight, we see what appears to be this single skeletal subject standing in this vast and open sea. It is no doubt a rather dreamy or even stranger introduction that is bound to leave you guessing and wondering what exactly is happening. Of course, look at the use of space within this work, right? Most of this is filled by this vast and open sea. We have the slightest of horizons at the top, but within this, it really contains our lone subject within. There is a slight accent that is provided by our lone subject, but not very much. And on that topic, the use of color within this composition goes hand in hand with that as well, right? Most of this composition is this purplish pink with a little bit of blue, especially on our lone subject there. But regardless, this uniform nature is incredibly important, and it's even surreal. You know, this color is quite strange. It feels like a dream in many different ways. We'll talk a bit more about that here in a second. You may also notice the impact of texture within this work, right? We see this everywhere, from the brain, which our subject holds in his left hand, to this sense of water, that sense of flow within the work, and of course our subject's rigid skeleton as well. All of those immerse us quite well within this work, even though it is such a strange scene. And on that topic as well, there is a sense of motion within this composition, right? There is the waves. They inherently give a sense of motion, and you wouldn't be mistaken to, feel like this is kind of swaying and moving back and forth, right? Any curves within the composition, they offer that so well within this work. And I want to ask you, what comes to mind when you view this work? Of course, our lone subject is a skeleton, right? And the symbolism of the skeleton can be anything from a sense of death, but here it feels like he's, naked or vulnerable or revealed in some way or another. And so he also holds the brain in his left hand, right? That is a symbol of attention. It is a symbol of knowledge and, everything that goes hand in hand with life as well. So there is a sense of contemplation within this composition. He looks directly at his own brain, almost like wondering. There is almost a sense of the sad or the solemn within this scene as well, and I think that's pretty important here. Finally, he has this magic hat or magician's top hat in his right hand as well. There is, of course, a symbolism of trickery or tricks within that as well, so perhaps he is deceiving himself in some way or another, although it's hard to say exactly what's happening. And we also have the symbolism of the sea, right? The ocean is, regarded with anything from the passage of time to this sense of vast chaos and, feeling lost in some way or another. The title of this work is Drop It and Let It Sink, The Brain Needs Water Anyway, certainly points at this sense of letting go, right? Letting go and dropping the brain into the water. When you drop something into the sea, there is pretty much no chance that you're going to get it back, right? There's a lot of different symbolism of that, especially in different movies and pop culture as well. So there is a sense of letting go within the composition that's inherent within that title as well. Perhaps our lone subject, when I think about that magician's hat, perhaps he is letting go of a state of being where he is tricking himself or others. I want to ask you guys, what comes to mind when you view this composition? There's a lot of different things you could bring from this, but I think there is a sense of contemplation, a sense of sadness, a sense of letting go, and then that magician's hat, it points to trickery in some way or another for me, but regardless, I want to ask y'all, what comes to mind when viewing this composition? And this work, of course, is pretty realistic. We talked a little bit about that in the context of texture. Of course, the work before us is a digital render, so it's created with the digital rendering program known as Blender. Blender is an open source software, and it has been used in so many different things. Perhaps the most widely and well-known use of a digital rendering program to create 3D art. But regardless, I really hope you'll enjoy it today. The work before us, I have seen the skeleton cited in anything from the vaporwave to the dreamcore aesthetic. So I have another work that combines the vaporwave and the dreamcore. I'm going to bring that in real quick and see what we can learn. Alright, so I got another work here. This is from the multidisciplinary artist KLA. The work on the right is created using the AI generative art program known as Midjourney. In both these instances, of course, you see that use of the sea or the ocean. There is this sense of the vaporwave. The work on the left has that neon or kind of, retro color palette, if you will, and the work on the right is quite literal. It has, retro technology that's so common with the vaporwave aesthetic. But in the context of the dreamcore, both these instances, there is a sense of the weird or the wild that you would only see in a dream. The work on the right incorporates more aspects of nostalgia, while the work on the left has much more of a rather strange or dreamlike aesthetic. But yeah, I just want to bring that in real quick, talk a little bit about the vaporwave and the dreamcore. I think that's just pretty relevant to the work at hand. So yeah, that's really all I have for today. I really hope you'll enjoy. We talked about so many different things, from the symbolism of the skeleton, the symbolism of the brain, the magician's top hat as a symbol of trickery, to the vast sense of the sea, feeling lost, and, a symbol of the passage of time and chaos. So many different things we talked about today. I really hope you'll enjoyed. Once again, this is a digital render created in the open source software known as Blender, so incredibly realistic. This artist does a lot in Blender. If y'all enjoyed today's episode, make sure to check out the original artist Garrett Jayordan, doing some amazing stuff in the 3D art program known as Blender. But yeah, like I said, that's all I have for today. If y'all enjoyed, go check out the original artist Garrett Jayordan. My name's Apollo. This was Apollo Art Analysis, and I'll see y'all on the next episode. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to support our work directly, please check out our Apollo community tokens. Apollo Art Exchange is an ecosystem of art appreciation which elevates artists each and every day. Thanks for listening.